systems in whatever way actually supports you. The second thing is, while you're doing that and making those kinds of deals with the ego, if that's what it takes, is to embark on an expedition, embark on a campaign of redefining the ideas that you're using. For example, the idea that the only way you can be supported in life, the only way you can be allowed to do the things that you desire to do, is with one particular format or representation of abundance. Remember that our definition of abundance is the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Period. Now, if on your planet money is one of those things, all well and good. But the idea is it's simply required that you have the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And if money isn't necessarily the way in which it's best to do that thing, then your reality, your higher mind will actually bring you the thing that would actually allow you to do that with less effort. Because sometimes if you insist that money's the only way a certain thing can be accomplished, again, that might simply be setting up an obstacle to bang your head against, when in fact your higher mind could actually bring it to you in a more easy way if you would only relax your definitions about what you think you need. So by going on a campaign of changing your definitions of what you think you need in order to be who you prefer to be and have the life you prefer, while simultaneously making deals with your ego to let you stretch a little bit beyond the belief systems, but while still honoring those you really feel you cannot yet change, you can work out a pacing for yourself that will allow everyone the balance they need, everyone to participate, all the aspects of your consciousness to participate as it needs to, and bit by bit you will find that you will change.
So if the ego is frightened in that scenario, yes, will it sometimes try to sabotage the person? Like they'll say,
yes, of course.
Okay, I'm going to try
but
this.
But that's why you need to strike a deal. You see, you need to find a negotiation that works. Because the only time that the negative ego will sabotage you if it feels it's not gotten a fair listen, a fair deal, a fair negotiation. If it feels that you are avoiding it, attempting to go around it, circumvent it. You understand?
It sounds like business
protocol. It is a business deal. Because the physical ego is all about physical business, the physical world. Therefore, one good way is to use its own language. Deal with it in a negotiation and allow it to understand that you are willing to negotiate fairly. So if you negotiate a fair deal from the ego's point of view and it allows you some latitude in that negotiation, then there is no reason why it would need to sabotage you. The sabotage only comes when you have not negotiated a fair deal.
That sounds incredible, because it's really about understanding the language of the ego.
Yes.
And talking in terms that it really can embrace, yes, and accept.
Absolutely. It's all about definitions, understanding them, and working with them.
So just to be clear, which part is making the deal with the ego?
Very good question, because you see, that's where the cleverness comes in. Because the idea is that the one that is actually negotiating with the ego is the higher mind. And so by bringing up the issue of creating a fair negotiation, you have already brought the higher mind to the table. And it starts negotiating with the physical mind in a fair manner, because higher mind is all about balance and fairness. But you're using the physical mind's language in order to get the idea across. So both are present in the negotiation. That's the issue. Both are present at the table. By even offering the idea of a negotiation, you have brought both the physical mind and the higher mind to the table to work out the best deal for the whole person. And that's the underlying issue in the negotiation. You are working out a fair deal for everything involved, for the whole being, for both sides, for both polarities. All right?
Okay, that's great. I'm getting a lot more clear on how you can have this dialogue with all these different aspects of yourself,
yes,
and become a unified person.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar.
Good day, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you. Recently, in in my meditations, especially with the use of entheogens, I have...
The use of?
Entheogens.
Define.
Well, the scientific name for it, entheogen, en meaning in, theo as God, gen as generate, so it's plants that generate God within, such as like mushrooms and things of those
Understood.
nature. Okay, so I've done mudras.
Yes.
And later finding out my ego, physical mind, doing research, finding out there are ancient Tibetan hand signals that raise frequency.
Yes.
What is it? Is this my higher mind communicating with me? Why is this happening? Is it like a quantum overlap? What's
yes,
going on
in a sense, although again, remember that all of these things are simply permission slips. You understand?
Sort of. Can you elaborate?
The notion of permission slips is simply that which you are attracted to use as a symbolic helpmate to put yourself in the proper state of being that represents more of your true self. But the idea is that you attract yourself to use these tools, these rituals, these ideas as a permission slip to align with your belief system, to allow yourself a reason to give yourself permission to be more of yourself. None of these things themselves are actually doing this. You are. But they are designed by nature to function as permission slips to allow you to give yourself permission to unlock those states of beings within you. And the ultimate realization that comes from the use of permission slips is that you no longer need them to create the state.
Are you referring to the entheogen or the
All
mudras?
of it. Any of it. Any tool, any technique, any physical symbol that allows you to feel that you can achieve a certain state of being, a certain vibratory level, is nothing but a permission slip that ultimately will show you that you no longer need the permission slip to create that state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess I'm a little bit more questioning, like, when this is happening, also, I guess you could say, like, Reiki type healing occurs as well.
Yes. But again, all healing is done by simply creating a vibration that suggests to the person to be healed what frequency they need to match within themselves in order to create the experience of healing for themselves.
I understand that. And also, just real quick, the ego itself, in an out-of-body experience type
situation. Just the fundamental ego, you mean? Just the focusing mechanism?
Yes.
Yes.
The inner dialogue, I
yes.
guess. In an inner out-of-body experience type situation.
Yes.
Where you feel totally dissolved and one with everything.
Well, not exactly, but go ahead.
Not exactly.
Well, in other words, if you actually had the so-called experience, I put that in your quotes, of actually being the one, you would not actually have an experience. You would just be the one. The one does not experience itself. The only way that the one could experience itself was by creating itself as the all. So when you have the experience you just talked about, the actual experience you're having is a connection to the all within the one, but it is not actually a connection as the one itself. It is only a connection to the one as the all.
Is that like the 99% kind of method you gave yesterday, like right before the one?
It is similar to that idea, yes. Because to actually go into the one, to actually be the one, there is nothing else. And an experience cannot be had when there is nothing to compare yourself to. So the one has no experience. It has experience as the all that it is, but not as the one. So, this is just a clarification of terminology.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So, in your out-of-body experiences, when you can perceive a connection to the all, that the one is, yes?
Yes.
And then, you were going to say, beyond that?
Oh, I was just going to say beyond that, just when you experience that, like, it's more of a processing thing coming back into the ego mind. Like, I was going to ask with that question, is there really a dissolution of the ego, or is it still there?
You still have a sense of your own identity, but it is not actually experienced in the same methodology or by the same mechanism as the physiological mind's ego structure.
Is that similar to dreams then?
It is more similar to that, but it is actually even beyond that. Because the dream itself also has to be a physical mind construct in order for the physical mind to understand the symbologies of the experience. The dream may not be literally representative of the experience you had, but it may be the closest approximation the physical mind can make to symbolize and represent that an experience was had. Therefore, the dream structure is actually a creation of the physical mind personality.
Okay, so that's not the higher mind then sending, like, for example, for inspiration, imagination that comes from the higher mind.
Oh, yes. It can be that the origination of the information comes from the higher mind. What we are saying is that in order for the physical mind to understand it, it has to cloak it in symbology that makes sense to the physical mind.
Okay.
Therefore, what it's actually perceiving are an arrangement of its own symbols of what the higher mind is saying. It's like translating from one language to another.
Excellent.
Make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good day, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you very much for tricking me into talking to my higher mind.
You are very welcome.
Because that's what I've been wanting.
Yes.
So, I do spend time every day being quiet in meditation,
all right,
trying to get my ego mind to shut up.
Oh, all right.
Okay, that only works so well.
Well, this is where the negotiation comes in.
Okay, so speak a little bit more about that.
Well, again, the idea is to know that when you propose a negotiation, that you are proposing something that is fair for everyone, including the ego structure, including the physical mind, including the higher mind. That something can be worked out that will work for all. Now, we understand that there may be a belief system within the physical personality structure that may not trust that, and you may have to work with that a little bit. But that is why we say if in the negotiation you promise to honor the belief systems that are already there that come from the physical mind's fear-based belief, then by honoring it as much as is necessary, then you can prove over time that it is no longer necessary to hold those things to be as true. So you does have to start, in a sense, with giving the physical personality, in a sense, let's say, you have to give it the first win in the negotiation. You follow me?
Okay.
By honoring the belief systems it has created, by validating them and recognizing that from the physical mind's point of view, they are valid. It's only trying to protect you after all. It's protecting itself, but it's protecting you.
Yeah.
Because it thinks itself is you.
Yes.
So the idea is that what it's doing, no matter how detrimental it may seem, no matter from what negative place it may seem to come, it's doing it out of love. Making the statement in your negotiation, your opening statement in your negotiation, that you recognize that it's doing what it's doing out of love is the way to begin the negotiation. And then what you're returning with is the idea that what you are also proposing is out of love, because you want the ego to survive and you want it to experience joy in doing its job effortlessly. And therefore, what you're going to propose is a sensibly and reasonably paced unfolding of a change in a negotiation that honors its side, its view, while at the same time also allowing you to prove to it that the changes you are proposing will serve it as well. So it's a win-win situation. But you must start any such negotiation by letting it, in a sense, win its first point, because the ego is all about winning.
Yes.
When you can teach the ego then that you're interested in a win-win, it will start to relent and grant you some leeway. Then you can work with whatever it is it gives you, and even if you are given a seed, you can expand that and keep expanding that in your future negotiations as you prove, bit by bit, that the old beliefs are no longer necessary for the ego to continue to win. At a certain point, you will cross a threshold in those negotiations where the ego will actually be eager to grant you more and more and more leeway, because it will actually start to feel the burden lighten up on itself. It will actually start to feel more like its true self. It will actually start to stretch out and say, this isn't half bad. Well, in fact, then maybe it is just half bad. But it is working its way to being all good. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Does that help?
Yes, it helps, and I think it may answer the second part, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Oh, all right.
So then when I get the ego to be quiet for a while, then I spend the second part asking questions of my higher mind and then waiting for an answer and writing it down.
You can. Again, remember, it is important during this point to actually use this quiet time to begin a dialogue with your higher mind in whatever way will allow the ego to feel that you're not tricking it.
Give me an example. Do it.
Well,
do the dialogue.
You have to express the idea that you're going to... Are you familiar with the idea? Again, this comes back to the idea of what you call business language. Are you familiar with the